And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our host for tonight, Duncan Miller. Duncan is our storytelling teacher and coach here at Montclair Film. Duncan is a former actor and improviser who has performed with Second City and Improv Olympic in Chicago. He has performed in various theaters, short films, and festivals in New York City, Chicago, and Baltimore. Currently, he is a high school academic dean at North Star Academy in Newark, helping to guide the next generation of storytellers. Please welcome Duncan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Sue. I'm going to switch to this microphone since it seems to be working even better than the one that I came on with. How are we doing tonight? Yeah, that's really kind of sad and boring. How we doing? Love that. Let's keep that energy going. Who has never been to a StorySLAM or to 505 before? Raise your hand. Nice. Almost half of the room. Let's give it up for our newbies. And where are our veterans who's been here, who's told a story before? Go ahead and show us your hands. Those are weak hands. Come on. Thank you, Raphael. Appreciate you. I see you in the back. All right, welcome back. Let's give a round of applause to our returners as well. I am so excited to be back here. The last slam I couldn't be here. I just had a kid, and it was distracting. Thank you. But we're so excited to be back here. This is the launch of our fall season of StorySLAMs. The next one will be with our film festival. If you've heard of the Montclair Film Festival, you should buy tickets and come. It's very exciting. But next month, we'll have a different StorySLAM. We try to do it every month from here until the end of the year. So thank you for being here for our first of the fall season. Before we dive in and talk about theme and introduce our storytellers, I want to make sure we know who's actually in charge here tonight. Up front, we have three illustrious judges. These are industry professionals, they are community members, and we're so lucky they gave us some time here tonight. So thank you for being here. I'm gonna introduce them one by one. Please give them the warmest welcome you can. And first up is Luke Ward. Welcome, Luke. Luke has written, performed, and produced shows at Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, People's Improv Theater, Magnet Theater in New York. He's created and produced original content for companies like College Humor, Hershey's, Toyota, and he has shorts with Bobby Moynihan and Donald Glover. When he's not creating content, he's probably out of breath chasing after his kid, who may or may not be the smartest and fastest child alive. Thanks, Luke, for being here. Give it up for him one more time. Next on the end, we have Jeanette Afsharian. Welcome, Jeanette. Give her a round of applause. Afsharian. I said I would get it right. Afsharian, thank you. Is the CEO of Blue Maker Multimedia. She leads innovative design and development projects for clients like Columbia University, PBS Kids, WNET, and Scholastic. She's got 25 years of experience, 4 Emmy nominations, 2 Webbies, and has created standout content across multiple industries. She has a podcast called Lost in Jersey with her friend Rachel Martins. They explore the unique journeys of people who made their way to New Jersey. It's a lighthearted show full of laughs. You should check it out if you love the Garden State. In her free time, she enjoys abstract painting, which often consists of an abundance of lines on canvas. She hasn't deciphered what all those lines mean yet, but she knows there's a story hidden somewhere within the chaos, and she is, of course, here in Montclair. Welcome, Jeanette. Third and final judge here in the center is Jason Foster. Let's give it up for Jason. And Jason's an award-winning filmmaker. He's originally from Kingston, Jamaica, and now resides here in New Jersey. He founded Foster Bear Films in 2011, and since then they've produced over 30 documentaries, short narrative films, and music videos, mostly happening in New Orleans, on New Orleans Video Access, NOVAC, the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, the NOCCA. And in 2020, he released his first feature documentary, the award-winning Many Fires This Time, We the 100 Million, and that won a Best Cinematography for Louisiana Feature and special jury recognition for Louisiana Feature. In the same year, he won a fellow for Union Docs Research and the development of Summer Lab, and his personal documentary, In Search Of, the shortened version of In Search Of, Pre-Game, premiered in 22 and garnered a special jury recognition award for Best Louisiana Short Doc. He is happily married, and he wants you to know this, happily married and a father of 2. Let's give it up for Jason. Welcome. All right, now that we know who's in charge, let's make sure we know the rules. Storytellers, listen up. You will have 6 minutes for your story. The illustrious Sue Hollenberg will be here in the front row to give you your timing stamps. When we are halfway through, you'll get a green card. That's 3 minutes. At 5 minutes with 1 minute left, you will get a yellow card. And at 6 minutes, we ask that you kindly wrap up so we can keep it equitable and fair for all storytellers. 6 minutes total. The only other rule, storytellers, is to be on theme. We want to be entertained, we want to laugh, maybe we'll cry, but most importantly, we want to make sure we hear stories about your first day. That's why we've gathered tonight. Please know that there is no intermission, so if you still want to grab a drink or a snack, please feel free to do so. We will run straight through, and we have 10 storytellers here tonight. First days. We laugh, we cry, the ups and downs, the nerve-wracking first beginnings. And a lot of us think about this around the school context. Now that we have grass-stained knees and the pencil shavings are deep in our fingernails, and you know the teachers are at the very back of the bar spilling drinks on your math homework, we want to think about how we celebrate a first day and what that means to these individual storytellers. We're so excited to have 10 people who are ready to share with us. And so let's give a very warm welcome to our first storyteller. Welcome, Brooke Sorger. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. As long as I can remember, I have viewed endings as new beginnings. I always felt most comfortable at funerals and shivas. I know unusual, but for some reason, I felt that grief was a universal language that spoke like no other. Whoops, wait. Sometimes I think people should come with warning labels, and if I had a warning label, it would say, she looks normal, but she is really dark and spooky. Because I'm sure that none of you would have expected me to speak about my first day experience about somebody's last day. So my first day experience is about the first time I ever witnessed a death. I was doing my fellowship, my palliative care fellowship at the Bronx VA, where I made the acquaintance of a tall, lanky man who loved cookies. I knew that he loved cookies because that was his request of me. He either asked me to get him a cookie or he asked me to wheel him to the hospital commissary, sort of a kind of a book like gift store, so he could buy cookies. He did not want to speak of anything about his time. He was dying of an Agent Orange-related cancer. He didn't want to talk about his time in Vietnam, what he felt guilty about, there or otherwise. Really, all he wanted to do was, well, all he wanted me to do was to get a cookie for him. And, but what I do remember, I don't remember his name because we spoke so few words to each other, but what I do remember is the weight. I mean, this man was really tall, of his body on the wheelchair as I drove him, and equal were the weight of my thoughts. All of this time, money, and energy, should I be the one who's getting him a cookie? I felt haunted by my supervisors. Is this a therapy session? Is this a therapy session? I didn't know what I was doing for him, and I had no idea what he was doing for me. And these cookie sessions went on for weeks until one day, you guessed it, he asked me for a cookie. I went to go get him a cookie. He was too weak to go to the commissary. And when I came back, I was having those thoughts again, as these types of training experiences can offer you. What am I doing here? Why did I do this? What am I thinking? And these thoughts were interrupted, sort of like during your 80s TV show when the test of the emergency broadcasting system would come on. This is a test of the emergency broadcasting system. Please stand by. The room was a different color. The air had changed. Suddenly, the air was a different color. He was gone. Well, dead technically, but it felt more like gone. 1 minute he was alive, asking me for a cookie, and the next minute, he was dead. Something had left the room, and I was certain of it. And it was a type of certainty that not even my Long Island, Woody Allen upbringing could take from me. From where did it come, and where did it go? All of the data I have collected from the additional deaths that I witnessed is that it is something other than human. Perhaps death is a doorway to something eternal, because when it all is destroyed of one's humanness, it goes somewhere else. Is that, at least that is what the ancient mythologies from all times and all places offer us. The doorway opens to a place that is pure and untouched by perception and interpretation. This place feels rare and beautiful and oceanic, awe-inspiring and divine. The adjectives are endless. It is a space that can only be described in this moment, because in the next moment it is gone. Because in offering this story to you, words take something from it. We all have these stories that open us to something eternal. I have heard many, and some of them are about death, but all of them are about the mysteries of life. This experience taught me that no matter what we believe to be true, there is always more. That there is always more to our stories than we can ever imagine, and that these stories take place in the most unexpected ways, with the most unexpected people. Like in this case, between a spooky, deep psychologist from Long Island and a tall, lanky, cookie-loving Vietnam vet from the Bronx. Let all of your endings to be considered a first day to a new beginning.
All right, let's keep it going for Brooke. Nice job. Thanks, Brooke, for kicking us off tonight. I kind of feel if like a cookie bite was my last bite, I would be okay with that. Is that okay? Yeah. I'm gonna ask you, Brooke, best cookie, favorite cookie?
Old school.
Yes.
Betty Crocker right out of the bag.
Yep. Not even cooked, just like the dough?
Definitely not cooked.
Oh,
Even better. I still like it.
all right. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you for starting us off. Now I'm hungry and I have to keep hosting this event, so I'm so sorry. But we have an excellent veteran storyteller up for our second teller of the night. Let's welcome to the stage Rafael Badaliaga. Welcome, Rafael. He got stuck in the back. Let's give him a moment. He's on his way. All right, thanks, Rafael.
I needed a car. I've been driving for years, but I never owned a car. That's because I lived in New York City, where a car, for the most part, was a liability. But now I had my first ever consulting assignment 100 miles north of the city, and I needed my first ever car to get there on my very first day. My brother said, "You can have my car on one condition." What's that? That I never have to see it again. I should have known then and there. The Delta 88 was long and white. It had tail fins. It also had its own mind. When you slammed the brakes, the radio would come on loudly. On my way up to meet my fellow workers for my first day, I got a flat tire. In utter darkness alongside the road, I had to jack up that weighty beast. I should have known then and there. I soon learned that I was the only member of the group who hadn't served jail time. My only crime was that I was out of a job. I would share a farmhouse with Frank. Greta, the woman in charge, had made all these different arrangements. Frank was a gifted engineer, but he hadn't engineered his life so well. He'd had a daughter with a woman named Joan, from whom he was estranged. Whenever he got a job like this one, she would show up with the child and a guitar and play sad songs and do everything she could to mess things up and try to garnish his wages. The child loved chocolate milk. She was never without a container of it in her hand. Joan knew that Frank had a new woman in his life named Trina, but she didn't know what he looked like. I was astonished by how completely the farm animals lived up to their stereotypes. The chickens were chicken. They ran away whenever you came near. The sheep were sheep. Wherever one went, the others followed. The pig couldn't have been more of a pig. She rolled around in the mud and grunted all day long. It started to snow. My first ever car didn't like the snow very much. It kept breaking down. When I explained this to Greta, she let out a series of invectives, which explained to me why she had the nickname Machete Mouth. One she liked, by the way. And then she made a suggestion. Even though she didn't have a license and couldn't drive, she owned 2 cars, a Toyota Celica and a Lincoln Continental. She would let me drive the Celica if I agreed to take her wherever and whenever she wanted in a Lincoln Continental. What followed were calls at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, and mysterious trips to the city and back, paper bags, all kinds of things. In any case, I would go out and check the car from time to time. I'd put the key in the ignition, turn over the motor, make sure it was still working. The postman would deliver mail. He arrived always in a unmarked van. It made me feel like he had other jobs as well. I would hand him letters begging my girlfriend, Miranda, to please come and visit me. She was a beautiful woman, but very set in her ways. She was upset that I had been laid off from my full-time job, and so were her parents. She told them everything. In any case, this day, the postman surprised me. He handed me a letter from Miranda saying she would be coming the following weekend. Miranda arrived on a Friday evening. We lost no time getting reacquainted. That feeling came back to me that beauty is the outward face of possibilities. The next morning, she went down to the kitchen to make coffee. The doorbell rang. She answered it. On the other side of the door was Joan. When Miranda opened the door, Joan took Miranda for Frank's new woman in his life, Trina, and she shot her. Frank appeared out of nowhere. He wrestled Joan to the ground. In the fall, she embraced him with longing, forlorn longing, and he recoiled. It was only a flesh wound. Miranda packed her bag. I never saw her again. Frank lost his job. The gun was in his name, and unregistered. It stopped snowing. I went out to the car to check on it and found one of the doors in the front wide open. There were 6 empty containers of chocolate milk on the seats. Joan had camped out in the car, observed our comings and goings, waiting for her moment. When I got back to the property, I saw the postman's van. He said to me that he'd noticed that the white car across the way hadn't moved in a really long time, and he wanted to know whether I was interested in selling it and what I wanted for it. He said his son had just gotten his license, and he wanted to give the boy his first car. I said he could have the car on one condition, that I never had to see it again.
All right, let's keep it going for Raphael. Nice job, thank you. My first car, not as controversial. It was an Acura Integra. I bought it from summer job money, but it did die within 3 weeks of buying it. So I learned a valuable lesson. Know about cars before you buy them. At least something. All right, thank you for jumping in, Raphael. We're gonna keep it going. Our third storyteller's name is Lori Lefevre. Let's welcome Lori to the stage.
I'm not a dog person. I don't like them. In Brooklyn, when I grew up, not a lot of people had dogs. My parents hated them. They were just dirty, smelly nuisances. I am a kid person, though. I always liked kids, even when I didn't have any of my own. I liked making kids happy. I was the neighborhood babysitter, then I became the fun aunt. And then after many years of trying and failing and trying and failing to get pregnant, I was blessed with adopting a beautiful baby girl. Turns out she loved dogs. Ever since she could talk, my girl, all she ever asked for was a puppy. All-out letter campaigns to Santa and us. Speeches, pleading and promising. She even did a full-out PowerPoint presentation, complete with a soundtrack and fluffy puppy pictures galore. But my resolve was stronger than that. I knew that the only thing a dog was going to bring into our home were more things for me to take care of, more stress, more aggravation to an already overloaded life. Little did I know that all that stress and aggravation would walk out the door of a 25-year marriage for a new puppy of his own. Daddy's little girl was just turning 13. She was shaken to the core. I was in no better shape. So a kid being a kid, she picked up the puppy persuasion project full force. Requests came at me flying fast and furious every single day. No way could this happen until the unthinkable happened. The pandemic lockdown. My feeling about raising a puppy was exactly like my feeling about raising a child. If you get one, you better be home to raise one. Thanks, COVID. Now I don't have an excuse. So like everybody else at that time, we tried to rescue one. We tried and we failed. We tried and we failed. We tried and we failed 10 times. Wacky excuses. There's no fenced-in yard. There's no kids allowed with the dog in the house. No dog for you. That's what it felt like. But then I remembered there was this neighbor on my block. She had 2 dogs that my girl loved so much. Now, I hesitated to call her because, well, like we used to say in Brooklyn, she's kind of connected, you know? But I'm desperate, so I call her. True to form, she's got a guy. She's got a guy, and she tells me he is the only guy that you're going to ever talk to. You hear me? And then she tells me he's totally clean. I don't know if that's good, but I call him. I'm on the phone. His name is Jake. He's from Litititz, Pennsylvania. The guy's Amish. I never saw that coming. He doesn't have any Shih Tzus. That's what my girl wanted. But he does have this other kind of dog called a Shijan. I'm like, a what's a Shijan? So he tells me they were bred to be therapy dogs or companions for the elderly. Win-win right here. I'm set. In seconds, Jake sends me pictures of a litter of the cutest, fluffiest, whitest puppies straight out of Central Casting. 6 weeks later, it's Mother's Day. After 2.5 hours of driving through torrential rain, we drive up to a long, rectangular, shiny, barn-like building. We race out of the car, we jump into the room, and it's a wood-paneled place with like a giant glass counter, like an old-time general store. Jake's behind that counter with his Amish hat and his beard. And his entire family is waiting for us in their knickers and bonnets. My God, it is clean. And in the corner, in the small fenced-in area, sits 6 pounds of fluff, just looking up at us. My girl takes one look at that runt of the litter, she falls in love. I fall in panic. How do I feed her? I say to Jake. He hands me a 10-pound bag of food. But like, how do I care for her? He gives me everything I need to know in a folder. But what do I do with her? And he says in his beautiful, calming Amish accent, all you gotta do is give her a lot of love, and everything's gonna be just fine. He then asks, do you want to hold her? I step aside so he can place her right into my girl's arms, just like they placed her into mine. They look deep into each other's eyes like we did all those years ago. She's so sweet, she says. And I see the tears in her eyes through the tears in mine. We are gonna be just fine. This puppy, this angel on earth, this great ball of fluff has kept us laughing and loving and surviving. Daisy Mae Corona, she entered my life. She not only made me a dog lover, she made me a dog mother.
Yes, let's keep it going. Lori Lefevre, thank you. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Change is beautiful. My wife and I got a dog from Paradise, Pennsylvania. We don't have a Amish hookup, but we found a Mennonite family. They had a horse and buggy in the driveway. We were very excited. But then I was kind of confused when I came out with the dog because there was like a double-barrel leaf blower, gas-powered. I was like, I guess the Mennonites are selective. And so we brought our cash, right? We're ready to buy the dog. She's like, we take swipe. It's like, great. I'm not even there in my advancement yet. They were ready to go with every payment form. They've evolved. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Awesome, Lori. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's bring up number 4. Let's welcome to the stage Ronald Wolfson. Welcome up, Ron.
Thanks. So I want to be an adult. On my first day at The Advocate, my editor, Dwayne, asked me if my stories are going to be ready on time. And thinking this is just a rhetorical question, I smile and say, I'll do my best. This sets Dwayne off. Dwayne is a large man, and he starts to back me into a corner. And for a moment, I think he's going to lift me by my shirt collar, and I'm like 140 pounds, and slam me against the wall. Instead, he tells me how little interest he has in my best effort. He wants those stories. And I realize he's right. In the adult world, the only thing that matter are results. He could care less if I wrote my stories strung out on heroin, so long as I got him in. I should mention at this time that I'm Jewish, and if you are Jewish and male, your mother's voice is always in your ear. And my mother, among other things, was really big on quitting. Piano, Little League, school play, it was all right. Her last words to me when she dropped me off at college were, if you don't like it here, you can transfer. And I can hear her voice, and it says, maybe this isn't for you. Still, I'm excited. It's my first time on my own, my first real job, my first regular paycheck, and my first apartment, which is a converted garage with a washer-dryer in the bathroom and a double bed in the kitchen, which brings up all sorts of possibilities for puns. Anyway, the learning curve to be a reporter is a steep one, and I make a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Most are inconsequential, but some, like the time I messed up an obituary, are unforgivable. And I lose a lot of sleep over that one. Tuesday nights when we put the paper at The Advocate are brutal. My editor strums his fingers on his desk as he reads my stories, and it sounds like wood blocks colliding. And as he gets progressively more angry with me, the noises increase until he starts cussing me out. He calls me a self-satisfying piece of poo, or words to that effect. And I don't know whether I should be more intimidated or impressed with his creativity. The town where I live is a tourist town that pretty much empties out in mid-October. There isn't a lot to do. There are very few people my age, and I don't have a car. And I think a lot about leaving, but I'm afraid that the humiliation of quitting my first job is something that I would never get over. And my self-respect, which is taking a beating, would be sucked into a black hole and become one with the nothingness of the universe. The voice says, stop being such a diva. It's time to come home. And I say, I can't. This is my first time on my own, my first real job. And the voice says, that's not a reason. I get a call in March from a friend of mine, Tom, who wants to drive across country. And this is a perfect reason for leaving the Advocate. But something is malfunctioning in the flight or fight core of my brain, and I decide to stay. I think that at 22, if you're an adult, you don't always get to do a job that you love or work with people you like. But if you're an adult, you get up every morning, get out of bed, go to work, and you do the very best you can. The voice is silent. It's at the hospital checking the records to see if perhaps I was switched at birth. Then I get another phone call. The man at the end of the line tells me he is unjustly being evicted from his apartment. I take down his story, and I call the landlord. And the landlord refers me to his lawyer. And the lawyer refuses to answer my questions. The story I write is horribly one-sided. It turns out that the landlord was well regarded in the community, and elderly, and legally blind. The story I write is so egregious that other newspapers pick up on it. As Dwayne sits there sifting through the letters of the editor, he turns to me, smiles, and says, "How does it feel to be a jackass?" Or words to that effect. Well, I can tell you right now, it doesn't feel good. I feel badly that I've hurt this elderly man, and I don't like being called out by the other newspapers. But then I think, screw him, or words to that effect. If their stupid-ass lawyer had just answered my questions, we wouldn't be in this place. And this frightens me, because I wonder what happened to the eager kid who lost sleep over a messed up obituary. When did he become so cynical? And I realize that I'm becoming somebody who I don't want to be. And I realize that it's time for me to go. Tell Dwayne I need to talk to him. And I find my voice. And I tell him that I'm going to drive across country with a friend of mine. And he talks to me softly. And it's the only time since I've known him that he's talked softly. And that is so much worse than when he yells at me. But I'm at peace with my decision. He is, as I mentioned, he is a bully, and he goes straight to my most vulnerable spot. He said, if you quit now, you'll always be a quitter. But as I said, I was at peace with my decision. And as I get up to go, the voice, which is only a voice, gives Dwayne the middle finger. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ronald Wolfson. Nice job. I think better to quit your first job than to be fired. Anybody been fired in here? No? I have several friends who are fired from their first job. It's about learning where you fit in, right? So I'm glad you made the choice to step away. All right, we're going to keep it going. We're almost halfway through. Let's welcome to the stage Rachel Kempster-Berry. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks for accommodating my shortness. Chuck's sister called and told me he was dead. Dead? He was 46. You don't die at 46. For 5 years, I'd been Chuck's special lady friend. His words, not mine. And briefly, his fiancée. Though I never got a ring, so I'm not sure if that's officially a valid point to make. After we broke up, he lost his job and had some health problems and went to Maine to live with his sister. He wasn't happy to leave New York, but he was grateful to have a place to go and build himself back up. He vowed to return, but that wasn't going to happen because the man I loved enough to sort of almost get married to was dead. Cheerful, right? That first day in a Chuckless world, I did all I knew to do. I called off work and ate 6 Entenmann's chocolate frosted donuts in quick succession, then started scrolling through Facebook. There's Chuck with a matador, Chuck with a lobster, Chuck posing with Lenny, the world's largest moose made entirely of chocolate. I thought about all the things he loved, his family, with the exception of his awful parents, truly awful, may they rest in peace, all his friends, his horrible cat Samantha. He loved the Westminster Dog Show, the Grateful Dead. He loved deviled eggs, and he loved crab stuffed shrimp from a particular diner in Queens. I told him for years, that shrimp is gonna kill you. No one orders the crab stuffed shrimp at a diner in Queens. Tragic. He loved dirty jokes. He loved it all. I was thinking back to all of the fun moments we'd had together, and they were kind of insane and crazy when I bunched them all in my head. He loved walking the meadows of the Berkshires with an absolutely ridiculous hat and a giant walking stick. He was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and won $76,000, and that was almost double, except I screwed up and I was his phone-a-friend. Things happen. And the happiest I've ever seen him was at the launch party for a book he wrote about the Grateful Dead with Mickey Hart and Phil Lesh. He had a tie-dye shirt under his usual tweed jacket, dancing bears, all of it. So happy. That morning, the first day, without Chuck, I made a perfect Chuck. I built up every good thing about him and left all the bad bits, the rough bits, the fights, the icky bits. And isn't that what we all do? Isn't it what we're sort of supposed to do? Remember our dead as perfect, forever in the best moments, like a frictionless Instagram feed, all rainbows and no rain. There was comfort in all of it, remembering the uncomplicated Chuck doing fun things, full of joy. But this comfort was fleeting, because I haven't mentioned how Chuck died. And it complicates things. Chuck fell down the stairs carrying a plate of deviled eggs on his birthday. He died instantly. And I know this sounds like an incredibly morbid punchline and a terrible joke, one that Chuck himself would have absolutely loved, but it's not. It actually happened. And I have no idea why his sister thought to tell me this detail. It was enough to just say Chuck had died, but she laid it all out there. I'm never, ever at peace with deviled eggs again. The obituary said that Charles Chuck Wills, age 46, died unexpectedly on April 6, 2011 in Portland, Maine. But if Chuck died unexpectedly, why wasn't I surprised when his sister called? And why couldn't I shake the feeling that maybe Chuck had planned this whole thing, deviled eggs and all? Why did I keep remembering the time Chuck told me that when his wife left him, he really considered ending his life? And he pointed to his rifle, unregistered and illegal in New York City, on the top of our coat closet. He says, I could have done it, but I chickened out. The last time I talked to Chuck, he told me he was waiting for a bed in a hospital. He'd been acting erratically and his sister was kicking him out. During a family dinner, he'd thrown a plate at the wall, and that was it. Chuck joked with me about going to the hospital because Chuck joked about everything. I bet they serve a lot of pudding in the psych ward, and I love pudding. I wanted to forget the complicated bits. I wanted to spend that first day just thinking about the good stuff, the happy Chuck, the Chuck with lobsters, the Chuck with giant chocolate mousse. I didn't want to think about the deviled eggs and the goddamn pudding and the sadness that swallowed him whole. I wanted that first day without him to be perfect. And perfect to me was all the good stuff. And I just couldn't, because that wasn't Chuck. He was all of it. He was the mess. He was the sunshine. He was the lobster. At the end of the day, I finally found a little peace and decided it didn't matter how he died, how bizarre and all of it. I was just going to think of him walking in the meadow in the Berkshires, wearing that absolutely ridiculous hat, not a deviled egg in sight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rachel. Keep it going for her. And thank you for sharing Chuck with us. Let's take a breath, huh? First days and new things are often flipped when we have those experiences. We don't often choose those, right? New jobs, new schools, those are often exciting things where we kind of get past that newness. But thank you for sharing the way to get through the difficult newness. We appreciate you. All right, now that we've had a moment, let's keep it going. Let's welcome to the stage Bruce Wallace. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you. So almost 20 years ago, I was running my own digital media business, and I was having a tough time making ends meet. I was going through a divorce, and I had 3 kids and lawyers to support. And so I figured, you know, I got my head straightened out, and I conceded I needed to get a regular full-time salaried job at a real company. So I put my resume out on this real specialized tech site, job search site, and within 2 weeks, and over the course of 2 days, I heard from 3 separate recruiters about the same job managing the digital library at HBO. So I thought, wow, this is exciting. So the recruiter worked with HR at HBO, and they had a full day of interviews for me. So technically, I call this my first day at HBO. Okay, so I go in there, and I meet with the HR person, and they give me the litany of questions. You know, why did I want this job? Why did I think I was qualified? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they had me go meet with these prospective colleagues who, are a bunch of sharp people. They took me out to lunch, but that was, they were grilling me, really rigorous. But I made it through tech questions, and and before that, I met with my prospective boss. And the thing about her is she was relatively new, and she knew a lot of process, but not much technology. So but you know what? That's why I was there, because I knew about technology, so it complemented itself. So anyway, all right, so then in the afternoon, I meet with the VP in charge of all digital media at HBO. Now, he's this little Napoleonic guy who was, he thought he was real hot shit, but he was a really smart guy. And, and he had a real skeptical chip on his shoulder, because he's like, well, what are you doing running your own job? Like, why aren't you out working for some top-end media company, right? And, but then he looked at my resume, and he knew I had some good stuff. I had worked at Bell Labs, I worked at Lucasfilm, I worked on Wall Street, so it kind of saved me. I came away unscathed. Okay. So then the HR person came around and goes, okay, you got one more short interview with the SVP of all of IT. And his name is also Bruce, but you know what? It's more of a formality. He only meets with a prospective candidate for 5 or 10 minutes. And he just literally needs to give the thumbs up or thumbs down. So just go in there and be yourself. So I was like, okay, fine. So she takes me up to his office, palatial office looking out at Bryant Park. I go in, there's this huge couch. He's got this coffee table with a bonsai garden and, sand and a little rake, he's feng shui, And he's sitting in his comfy chair opposite the couch. And so I go and I sit down, and I notice he's holding a piece of paper in his hand, and I realize it's my resume. I go, holy shit, maybe he actually read something about me. Okay, so he's sitting back, and he goes, so, I see you went to Cornell. Now I'm thinking, that's an interesting opening line. And I said, I did. Why do you ask? He said, because I did too. I said, really? When were you there? He said, same time you were. I said, really? What were you studying? He goes, I was getting my MFA in acting. I said, really? Now I'm thinking, wait a minute, MFA in acting. This guy is the SVP of IT at HBO, and he's studying acting. Well, so then I thought, nah, I'm not going to, no judgment. I'll go with it. And then he says, yeah, you may have seen me in a couple of my productions. I said, really? What were they? He said, well, I was the lead in Dracula. And I'm thinking, oh, I went to that. That was a sold-out audience. So I kind of look at him and I go, wow, you were awesome. And then he said, yeah, and you may have seen me, I was the lead in Cyrano de Bergerac. And I'm looking at this guy, and he had a naturally big hook nose. So he didn't need a prosthetic. He was perfect for Cyrano, right? And the thing was, I'm looking at him, and I lost it, and I go, oh my God, you're Cyrano. And I said, you had a standing ovation. Now at this point, I'm thinking, I've already burned up almost all my 5-minute quota with this guy, right? And then I just wasn't thinking. I sat there and I looked at him and I went, what the hell are you doing here? And he started laughing. He's laughing. And then he started recounting how his dream was to go into acting. He had gone back to get his MFA in acting. He had gone to community theater, and he thought he was going to work his way up in acting. But he got married. He had a couple of little kids, and so he figured, you know what? And he was having a tough time making ends meet. He's going to have to go back, get schooling in a totally different profession that can make some money, IT, and so then and then here he is. Smart guy, worked his way up. SVP at HBO, and I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I was doing my dream, running my own business, and here I am interviewing for this job because I got to get a corporate job and make things. And that was my first day at HBO. Oh, I was in his office for an hour and a half. We had a great time. It was almost hard to leave. And the very next day, I got a great solid offer that started my 13-year career at HBO. Thank you very much.
All right, let's keep it going for Bruce. Those college connections really do work. Also, young people in the audience, acting is a fine minor as well. All right, let's keep it going. We're a little past the halfway mark. Let's welcome to the stage Eleonora Kaczynski. Welcome, Eleonora.
It was a frigid January morning. I was driving on Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn to visit my mother-in-law, who was recovering after the surgery. My husband was at the hospital with her for a few days, and I was left alone with 2 babies, 2 under 2. I was overwhelmed as I was feeding, as they were crying, and when I gathered, I realized that I left wearing slippers. I was halfway in Brooklyn and decided I'm not going back, as it was frigid and I wasn't planning to be outside. In a back seat, the kids cried in perfect harmony. One dropped a pacifier, the other a bottle. It was a crying symphony worthy of baby Mozart. My mind raced. Would have been better for the kids to be mute or for the parents to be deaf. And so I blasted at full volume, "Don't Cry" by Guns N' Roses. The magic worked, and both fell asleep. Finally, I breathed out a sigh of relief. I desperately needed a puff or a sip, but all I had were baby puffs and breast milk. And so I called a friend to vent the joy of motherhood. And as I was talking on the phone, driving, I heard the siren. But I thought, it wasn't for me. Kept driving. And so I stopped at the red light and saw a police car with blinking lights crossing my way. I thought, can't be me. I switched the lane, and I saw an officer coming to me. I rolled down the window, and he barked, "License and registration." What did I do? I asked. You're on the phone while driving. So I got the registration out of glove compartment and started looking for my wallet in a diaper bag. I didn't see it, and so I flipped it. And baby bottles, snacks, and all were on the passenger seat. Wallet wasn't there. This can't be happening to me, I thought. Officer, I must have left it home, I said. Your name, he shouted. And I said, shh, you're gonna wake up the babies. Now his face twisted in anger. I spelled out my name, trying to stay calm. He went to the car, and I waited. And when he came back, he said, you're not in the system. I have to take you to the precinct. I said, what do I mean? What do you mean? I have my driver's license for 15 years. Registration is on my name, my insurance, and everything is fine. You can't take me to the precinct. I have babies. Well, you can be a criminal, he shot back. I said, a criminal? A white woman with 2 babies talking on a phone? He said, you're a racist. Step out of the car. At that moment, baby number 1 starts crying. I step out of the car, in my pink, fluffy slippers. He said, get someone to take the kids immediately, or they will go to jail with you. I frantically called my husband. Luckily, it was only a few blocks from his mom's apartment. He arrives and pleaded with the officer to let me go, but it didn't help. I was handcuffed wearing my pink, fluffy slippers in front of Ocean Parkway community. He put me in the back of a police car, just like in the movies, with tinted windows and bars separating me from him. And a few years later, as my son was playing with his toy cars, I remembered that I was in a real police car. I told him. And in his 4-year wisdom, he exclaimed, wow, lucky you. So we came to the precinct in Coney Island. It really looked like a jail. And I was put in a cell with toilet in the middle, and a sink, and a cellmate that was detained because of drugs. Now, in my pink fluffy slippers, I had to do my business on the toilet. And doubled the fun when I started lactating. 3 hours and a lot of trauma later, my husband came with my license. He had to drive to Jersey and back, battling the crime symphony all the way. I was let go. And all this drama and trauma was because in my license that I received when I came from Soviet Union, I was spelled Eleonora with an O as the first letter. And in all documents, I had Eleonora spelled the American way. Thank you.
All right, keep it going for Eleonora. You can't even write that. Pink fluffy slippers, 2 kids in the back. Woo. All right, we have just 3 more wonderful storytellers tonight. Let's keep it going for Tamir Sears. Welcome, Tamir.
It's my first day of senior year, a day that I've been waiting for since I was a kid. TV and movies always made senior year seem so fun and exciting, so I spent my childhood years waiting for the day to finally come. And now it's here. Except now I'm wondering if this is the start of something new and exciting or the end of something taken for granted. See, life as I know is about to change. And in a few months, I'll be making a life-altering decision. But I don't even know if I want Chick-fil-A or Chipotle for dinner tonight. So it just doesn't seem fair that a decision that I make at 18 could still affect me possibly 50 years down the road. It's the first day. I walk into class, and within the first 10 minutes, we hear the word, college. Everywhere I go, it comes up. What colleges are you applying to? Where are you gonna study? Are you gonna stay in state? The questions never end, and honestly, I don't wanna talk about it. Just the thought of it makes the hairs on my arm rise. Not to mention that teachers, I'm sorry, but some of you guys are hypocrites. They say, go to college. You'll learn more about your education and learn so much about yourself. And in this day and age, what job are you gonna look for that doesn't want a college degree? But then at the same time, they'll say, well, college isn't for everyone. You know, you might get into debt, and at the end, you might not even use your degree. To be honest, in this day and age, there's so many job opportunities out there that don't need a college degree. So, which one is it? I mean, you guys are supposed to be making my life easier, not adding to my stress. I don't really think I want to go to school for 4 more years. I mean, school as it is already gives me anxiety and stress that I can't handle. So why would I put myself through that? And then coupling that in with the idea of getting into debt, I'm good. But at the same time, I think to myself, what if I like college? I feel like it's a chance for me to get to know myself, for me to explore, for me to educate myself. And I do want to continue advancing in my field of study, which is film. So college seems like the best decision, right? Well, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm gonna be honest. I'm really scared. I've heard advice from everyone that you could imagine. People telling me, college, go to college. Trust me, it's the best decision. Don't go to college, don't waste your money. Oh, just go to the workforce. Oh, do this, do that, do this, do that. I can't keep track. What do I do at this point? I listen, but still, I'm wondering if I can make it. See, there's all these things that come with adulthood and growing up that I wasn't prepared for, that I didn't even know existed. There's all these bills that need to be paid. There's this freaking dude called Uncle Sam who takes half of my paycheck and then takes more the more I make. That's not my uncle. I don't know that man. Not to mention, don't get me started on insurance. There's practically insurance for everything, your car, your dog, your home. Like, can we just put it all in one bundle that I could just pay for and then get it over with? But I guess that's not reality. I know I'm getting a little bit off the topic of my first day, but I want you all to know that everything that I said was what I experienced in my first day. All those things from A to Z, I felt and I talked about. I want everyone to walk away with understanding and knowing that other people my age around you are probably going through the same thing as me. We are scared, we are nervous, but we are trying. I know that first day always comes with first day jitters and all that other stuff, and who are my classmates? I hope I like my teachers. But it's more than that. For seniors, it's a time of growth and maturity, and you're realizing that you are no longer a kid with zero responsibilities and worries. You are now an adult, and you might not always have somebody in your corner helping you out. So I'm really scared, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm hoping I can make it. I'm trying to make it. Please, 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 I need you guys to tell me I'm gonna make it. No, seriously, I need to hear it. Okay, thank you.
All right, keep it going for Tamir. I've never done this before at a storytelling event, but on 3, can we tell Tamir he's gonna make it? 1, 2, 3. Tamir, you're gonna make it! All right. Thank you, Tamir. That was brave. And you stood up here and you delivered. That was beautiful. Thank you. Nice work. All right, just 2 more to round out our evening. Thank you very much for being a wonderful audience so far. Let's welcome to the stage Lydia Kaplan. Come on up, Lydia.
The first day I got porno email is directly linked to my grandmother and the Hadassah chapter of Greater Philadelphia. Whoa, okay. It was 1977, and even then, in its primitive stages, my grandmother was fully acquainted with the capabilities of the World Wide Web. If, for example, she wasn't feeling well and needed to seek medical attention, she discovered that I could go to the computer and find out what she missed on her stories while at her doctor's appointment. Shows like One Life to Live and General Hospital posted their daily synopses. So when she had an odd dream one night, she reached out to me for assistance, and this is where it all went awry. She called me in the morning and said in her dream a strange man was calling out his name. And she realized it was her old pen pal, a guy in a Russian prison in the 1970s. So this oddity was arranged by Hadassah, who assumed it was a mitzvah to have a convicted prisoner of conscience for your very own pen pal. She eventually learned that he moved to Jerusalem when he was released from prison, and they lost touch. So, could I go on the computer and find his address in Jerusalem? So I did a search on www.yahoo.com and found a really lame PDF of the White Pages of Jerusalem, which I could not read because I told my mother when I was 7 I didn't believe in God, so I never went to Hebrew school. So then I got this like amazing idea. I don't know what came over me, this genius that if any of you had AOL, if you were a member, you could have access not only to chat rooms, but to keywords, members' profiles keywords that describe them. So I decided to go on and find a profile that said American Jerusalem, because I had this idea. If I found someone, I'll ask them to go into their kitchen, get their phone book, and find the address for me. So there I go, American Jerusalem, and then there's this little arrow, online now, cool. So that means they're in a chat room. Click onto it, I'm in role play and fantasy. Okay. So I said to the guy, I mean, I don't know if you're younger, you might not be able to imagine what I'm talking about. I was able to have like a sidebar chat with him. I said, I'm gonna ask you to do me a favor. He said, M or F. I'm like, oh dear God, I need you to do me a favor. Just go to the kitchen. If you get your phone book, this is the guy's name. I need his address, and lo and behold, he got it for me. And from that day forward, my grandmother resumed her correspondence with the prisoner from Russia, and I got porn in my inbox.
All right. Thank you, Lydia. It's so funny the cues we pick up on to tell people how old we are. Because only a certain people laugh very heartily at the MF comment when you're in a chat room on AOL. I see you. I see you. All right. We're almost at our last storyteller. Let's keep it going. One more. Let's give it up for Paul Heery. Welcome, Paul.
I was 20 years old when I decided to drop out of college with less than a semester to go until graduation. I had been a journalism major, and I found myself waking up almost every morning drenched in sweat. I had this fear about having to live with a new deadline day after day after day. And I knew if I couldn't hack this in college, I didn't want to do it for the rest of my career. So I decided to pack it in and leave school. Now, my parents weren't too thrilled about this when I told them. But they eventually got over it, but it took some work to do. So life's in the transitions, and this was a big one for me. There's also upsides and downsides for every decision that you make. One of the big upsides that I had after dropping out was that in my new full-time job, I found the woman, Andy, who would be the love of my life. That also came with some downsides. Her parents weren't thrilled at all, even less than mine were. Shortly after we met, Andy's father pulled me aside and told me that I was not worthy enough to date his daughter. So Andy and I were looking at each other, and I knew that that was not a decision that I was going to make, because every time I looked in Andy's eyes, I knew that I could not walk away from that. So to set things right, we needed to put in some effort and have a plan. Now, the plan we worked on together, but it was mostly Andy's plan. My participation in this was pretty much to say, that's a good idea, dear. Now, part of our plan was we were going to move to Atlantic City to take advantage of the new casino economy. Okay. Also part of the plan is that I was going to re-enroll in school and start over again. So I was able to transfer most of my college credits over to Stockton University. If you're not familiar with Stockton, it's well known as the Harvard of the New Jersey Pine Barrens. So we're moving along. I was busy going to school all during the day while tending bar at night. So we were working pretty hard, moving along. My parents and Andy's parents eventually came around, and Andy and I got married less than 2 years after we met. We were both madly in love. But before the wedding, Andy's dad came up to me, shook my hand, and welcomed me into the family. Now, I'm back in school, moving along, and I'm getting close to graduation. It's the fall semester, and I'm finishing up all of my classes, and I'm registering for all the classes that I'm going to need in the final semester in spring to actually graduate. I signed up for everything, including one course that I absolutely dreaded, and that's advanced calculus. Advanced calculus is the mathematical equivalent of waterboarding. So during the Christmas break, before the spring semester starts, I get a letter from school. A letter. I think most people in here remember what those are. Get a letter from school telling me that due to unforeseen circumstances, calculus would not be offered in the spring semester. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I call school. I start yelling at whoever I get a hold of and start saying, I'm going to be a father. I can't come back to school. Eventually, I give up and realize that I'm going to have to take class in the spring. Then one day, Andy comes up to me, cuddles up next to me, and coyly tells me that she's pregnant. And she said, things are going to work out well because you're going to graduate, and then Karen will be done born in June. And it's like, well, no, I'm going to summer school now. So that kind of blew things out of the water. Go through the whole spring semester, and then moving in, and I start in my first day of summer school, I find a silver lining. The calculus professor doesn't want to be there either. Most of the classes are held outdoors under a tree. And also, he tells all of us that if everybody, or if you attend every class, you get a B. I'm no longer dreading calculus. Now, through all of this, the upside is I met the love of my life, Andy. We spent 44 wonderful years together until she passed away about 2.5 years ago. I have 2 children and 3 grandchildren who I love dearly. And not once in over 40 years have I ever used calculus. Now, life is in the transitions. You have the upside, and you have, that's all joy, and you have downside as well. I prefer the joy. And I know that had I not dropped out of college, I never would have had such a wonderful life. Thank you.
All right, let's keep it going for Paul, who brought us home. Nice job. And if we can get one more large round of applause for all 10 storytellers tonight. Nice job. We're going to send our judges upstairs to deliberate. For those of you who are new to us, there are 3 coveted Montclair Films swag bags on the line. The top 3 storytellers. It's all in good fun. And the top winner will also receive a year membership to Montclair Films. All right. Luke, are you going first?
I think I'm going first.
All right, let me give you a microphone.
Oh, man, okay. Oh, I don't like this. It's so loud. So it was very tough competition. Thank you all for speaking. And for those who didn't speak, thank you all for listening. And it was tough. It was really tough. We deliberated for a while. But I have the honor of giving out our 3rd place prize, because this story, we all were touched by this story. I was the only person I wanted to give a hug to when it was over. So 3rd place goes to Tamir Sears.
Yeah, Tamir, come on up. All right, congratulations.
Hello, my friend.
Get your swag bag, and if we could just take a quick picture of all of our winners with our judges.
Good job. Congrats.
All right, nice work. And Tamir, we're going to have you stay right here because we're going to do a whole group photo as well. Okay. Jason's up.
Yes. Yeah, everything that Luke said, tough choices. But this story touched all of us, touched me. Very vulnerable, talking about death and how to view people after they passed away. So Rachel, Barry, you got 2nd
All right,
place.
Rachel, come on down. Congratulations.
There you go. Now we gotta take a
Please grab a picture with Jason.
Most certainly.
Logo's out. Thank you. All right, congratulations. You don't have to drum roll, but there are wood blocks next to your elbows if you feel so compelled. All right, our top place goes to.
Okay, so as everyone has said, it was very difficult, but this decision came pretty early on. It is about a dog. It is for Lori Lefevre.
All right, let's give it up. We got our winner board.
I can't believe this. Oh my God.
Congratulations. If we could just get all 3 winners with our judges here.
The judges over this way, please.
Mix and mingle. Don't be afraid.
Over here, by the middle. No, everybody over here.
The judges on the right, the talent on the
We
left.
need the light. Dead center. Beautiful.
Even more closer together now.
Okay.
This is a film organization. We must get it correct.
That's great. Very good. Very nice.
All right, let's give it up for our winners one more time. One more round of applause for yourselves, for our storytellers tonight, and of course, our winners. Congratulations.